Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I'm John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. With me on this Bucs Panthers preview episode for the first Week 18 ever in NFL history is the one and the only Scott Reynolds. Who else could it be, ladies and gentlemen, to preview this first Week 18 of all time? Scott, how does it feel to be covering the league as long as you have and have made it this long, Scott, to where you see a Week 18 in the NFL?
Well, John, I'm feeling pretty old right now. It's been a long time coming, getting to Week 18.
It's been a long time since I heard Old Man Reynolds come out.
Well, it's because my voice is slowly getting better.
That's true.
Slowly.
Yes,
truly, yeah.
Lots of improvement. But this game, Scott, is going to be – it could be so ugly because I think the Panthers have just mailed it in. I know we'll talk about it in depth, but it looks bad on paper, man.
Well, the thing is we saw some teams, and I'm glad that LSU, even though they only had like 39 players last night, I'm glad they decided to play my alma mater. Or is it? There you go.
Did not. I think they had 32 scholarship players. I saw.
Don't care. It's SEC. Just means more. Don't care. It was a quality win.
It was a great win.
Yeah,
really took down Kendall Hinton at quarterback.
But listen. LSU has had 5 years of like top 5 recruiting classes. There were more LSU players out of those 39 that are going to be in the NFL than anybody on Kansas State.
That's probably fair.
So just because they're not experienced doesn't mean they're not physically talented and athletic as all get out.
So what was the final score? I didn't even see.
42-20. They got a last. They call a timeout with two seconds left to throw a trick play bomb for a touchdown. To make it go from 42 to 14 to 42 to 20. Look a little better on the stat sheet. Okay, whatever.
Still looks pretty bad, though.
It was a beatdown, and I loved it, every minute of it.
Hey, that's great. I didn't even know they were still
playing.
Every
man a Wildcat. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the latest bowl game, wasn't it? Other than the Natty. Which isn't a bowl game, I guess.
Well, it was late. It was late on two fronts. It was the latest into the bowl season. It's January 4th last night. It was also a 9 o'clock start, which – had me up till 1 o'clock in the morning, which means, John, the first thing I grabbed was 2 Celsius today. That's why I'm doing this show at 7:30. I had a little bit of orange, a little bit of tropical vibe.
Actually, so you're mixing your Celsius is what you're telling me.
No, I had both of them, John. Is what I'm telling you.
I thought you like
or I could. I'll try it. Maybe it's an orange tropical vibe kind of thing going.
If but people John, don't know, Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. It accelerates metabolism, it burns body fat, and there's no sugar, Scott. No sugar in this Celsius. I got the peach vibe right here. It's unbelievable how they got so many different flavors and in such great taste, but they don't have any sugar in them. And you get rid of all the bad stuff that you get from a lot of other energy drinks.
And they taste so good, John. That's the thing. Like I've had some other energy drinks. I'm not going to name names that you buy it, you try it, and you're like, gosh, that did not taste at all like, whatever flavor they lied about on the can. Or sometimes it just doesn't taste good, right? Sometimes you just got to like, all right, I need this energy. I'll just, pinch my nose and swallow this stuff and hopefully it gives me a boost. And then, of course, predictably, a couple hours later, you're getting a crash. Mm-hmm. But, John, it's been, about 2 years since I've tried Celsius. It's the only energy drink I drink for that reason. The taste, and it works. There's no crash.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So make sure you check them out. You can click the banner ads at pewterreport.com and check them out, or you can go to Celsius.com, use the store locator, find out where they're selling some Celsius near you. Scott, before we get to this matchup, we are going to talk about Bucs Panthers, but let's be honest, we talked about it 2 weeks ago, so not much has really changed. The Bucs are still pretty much, and the Panthers are still pretty bad, and so we don't know.
Well, yes, when you generalize like that, yes, that's fine.
One big thing has changed. Antonio Brown went crazy on the sideline.
That's true.
Thing.
Yeah, but
other than that, most is to say the same. But we'll still talk about that matchup for sure. Want to get to some of the questions because we've gotten these, Scott, whether it's in DMs. I've been DM'd these things. Mm-hmm. I've been tweeted at these things. You've been DM'd and tweeted at. I know we've gotten Facebook messages about these things. I'm pretty sure I saw an Instagram message about one of these things. So we've been bombarded with questions about whether several players will become Buccaneers. And I just want to take a minute to tell you that none of them will be because Julian Edelman is not, his knee is bone on bone. He's cooked.
Yes.
He's finished. Larry Fitzgerald's retired. He's not coming out of retirement. And
Terrell Owens.
Wouldn't want him. Terrell Owens is has not played in the league for how
Chad
many years?
Ochocinco is also not going to be a Buccaneer.
Is he on the table? I didn't even.
Well, I've heard that one as well. Yeah, because
Okay.
I guess he lives in Tampa.
What about Randy Moss?
Randy Moss,
no. Okay, all right. Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson is not. No Megatron.
Wow. Okay.
I even asked Jason Light, true story, if Lynn Swan, if they would consider Lynn Swan.
That's actually a true story. I know.
That's a true story. Yeah.
And he said,
can't
repeat what he said.
Can't repeat what he said. Yeah. It was funny though. It was funny.
It was funny. Whatever reinforcements you are thinking might be coming to the Bucs in the form of a once great veteran receiver who is currently retired.
Right.
They are not coming. It is not happening.
Correct.
A, because they're probably not going to be good, but B, because they wouldn't help the team, and C, because they like the guys that they have now. So it's going to be this group. Arians, made it clear today. If there was anybody you weren't thinking of that you were going to ask about later, they're not coming either, because Arians said, no, we're riding with the guys that we have. Yeah. It seems like he is.
There's no saviors on the street. Not in a week 18.
There isn't. The reality. If it were early in the season, we could explore some options. This point in the year, I mean, by the time anybody would be ready
this guy
to
right
play,
here. It's Cyril Grayson, my new favorite Buccaneer, John. That's Cyril Grayson.
Yeah,
that's the guy. It's him.
Cool to hear Bruce talk about him. Honestly, Bruce doesn't
get story.
Yeah, when he gets into specifics about players, the analyst in Bruce from his time as a TV analyst has never totally gone away. Like he still will do some of that. He'll kind of wax poetic a little bit about some players time to time. Just to hear him talk about Cyril, he was saying today he was killing the scout team or killing it on the scout team against their top defense, and that's when they were like, all right. And just Tom Brady, like him saying, like he said on a couple different shows now, he asked Tom straight up, what should we do? And Tom was like, play Cyril. I trust him.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool, man. That
it is.
That shows you what he's shown them in those formats, and to be able to improve. And Arian said straight up, catching the football has been the biggest improvement. He just ability to catch it in traffic or just see through a defender's hand and catch the ball like he did for the game winner, all that stuff. That's new stuff for Cyril, and it's just pretty cool. He's 28 years old. You texted me that.
28 years old. Yeah.
I did not realize he was that old. I didn't know that he bounced around so many places early in his career, and he's just 28 now. And so, he's I don't know what the upside is. But
and the thing is, he's never made a team before. I mean, the first game he ever played in was for the Buccaneers in 2019 when they lost Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Scotty Miller to hamstring injuries. And, and Rashad Perriman was the one. Justin Watson was the number 2. And they just needed more bodies, right? Mm-hmm. And they brought him in, and then he's been on the practice squad, since then. And they're going to bring him up to the active roster, for the game for sure. But listen, this is a guy that when we talked about this in the Saints game, John, nobody stepped up for Tom Brady in that game, right? Once Evans and Godwin went out, nobody stepped up. Gronk had a tough night. Rashard Perriman, was nowhere to be found. He had COVID, right? And Tyler Johnson just wasn't the guy. Yeah. And in Carolina, it was Antonio Brown and it was Cyril Grayson. Mm-hmm. Those were the two guys, because even Gronk just wasn't targeted that game. He had a really great game last week, but just was not the two-man show in Carolina, because Tyler Johnson wasn't even targeted in Carolina that game. But that's where this guy came to play and showed up. And it wasn't just as a receiver; it was also a blocker on this 52-yard touchdown run by Keyshawn Vaughn. So he's earned it. Just like Cajun Buck said, Perriman about to shine. In my opinion, that could be the case. Listen, we've seen it before. It was Scotty Miller last year in the playoffs and a couple times. It's over.
Perriman at the end of his first Bucs tenure.
Yeah, Perriman at the end of the Bills game at the walk-off touchdown. This is like a wide receiver wheel of fortune. You spin the wheel, and as long as it comes up with somebody that makes a play for Brady, that's all he's asking. I just need somebody to make a play.
Smilegate wants to know if Jerry Rice is coming. Good thought, Smilegate. Jerry Rice is not coming, though.
He's not.
Unfortunately, he is busy. And what about Golden Tate? No. Golden Tate, by the way, maybe the anti-Bucs receiver. I'm trying small, not super athletic, slot only. Yeah, he's like the he's like the antithesis of the type of player that they draft,
Yeah.
I think, or look for.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, he was on a practice. He was on somebody Titans practice squad. He hasn't even been.
Yeah.
I don't think he's been active at
The
all.
one guy we haven't talked about bringing back is AB. There are still fans holding out hope. I mean, there are. Like, I've seen stuff on fools, but I mean, fools die hard.
Everybody got to believe in something. I guess.
Like I get it, but the thing is
here's a good one.
No, no.
Desean Johnson.
Listen, he was the OG. Keyshawn was the first wide receiver diva to get suspended by the Bucs. So. Yeah. I don't think, even though John Gruden's nowhere to be found, not even on the stadium anymore, I just don't think that the Buccaneer organization is going to go Keyshawn 2.0.
No chance with Keyshawn.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
No. Plus, I think Keyshawn in his I was going to say portly, but that might be mean, so I won't say portly. But he's probably more of a tight end now than he is a wide receiver.
He definitely is. He's for sure. Damian Street says, "Is Darden done for the year?" No, Darden's back now. He's back off COVID, and Bradley Pinion back off COVID today, and so that means the Bucs have nobody on the COVID list right now, Scott. So
for now,
knock on wood, and we'll just see how that goes to finish the week. But right now, nobody on the COVID list. Everybody's back, and also a little bit of other surprising news here. I'm glad Damon reminded me, but Aaron Stinney practice window open today, so he could play this week. We'll see, but seems like maybe the wild card round he could be active for. He'd have 2 weeks of practice under his belt at that point, and at the very least, he would have to be back before the the Wednesday before the NFC Championship game. That's his last. He has to be back. By
Alex Kappa's got to watch his ankles, man. I mean, we're getting around that time, so
that's right. And Aaron Stinney, playoff hero, might have to
Aaron
shine again. Yeah, that's a good sign. That's a good little omen right there. Aaron Stinney getting ready for the postseason. So
just in case he's needed.
That's right. If they need him or not. Couple other things on the horizon here. People want Adam Humphries. I believe he's on an actual team right now. I don't think they could just get him.
Humphries on the Washington football team.
T3P.
Wait, hold on, John. It's what is your pick for the Washington football team? I know we have a couple weeks here, but I'm just curious. Yeah.
I really wish it was Red Wolves.
Me too.
I thought that was sweet,
but
that would have been sweet. Yeah. I've seen some cool things like Red Tails is cool. I haven't read a ton about the history, but I saw some people, a couple of my friends were commenting on it today and just saying that the history of it would be a really cool one. So I'm all for that. I think everything else out there pretty much is complete garbage. I'm trying to think if I've seen anything else.
There's like Defenders, Commanders, Admirals.
Oh, Commanders and Admirals. Oh.
Yeah. See, now listen, in full disclosure, I was born in Alexandria, Virginia. Okay. I lived there for the first 6 years of my life. That was my first team. Actually, it wasn't. My first team was the Philadelphia Eagles, believe it or not. I liked Harold Carmichael, Wilbert Montgomery, the Polish Pistol, Ron Jaworski.
How old were you when you were in the Eagles?
I was like 5, maybe. And well, the thing is I had collected football cards, right? And I saw Harold Carmichael was like the 6'7" wide receiver. And Wilbur Montgomery was a slashing running back. And the thing is, I watched the Eagles when they were playing the Redskins. My mom's a huge Redskins fan. And so I kind of gravitated towards them. And then when my mom found out I was an Eagles fan, I was not allowed to be an Eagles fan anymore. So I switched my allegiance to the Redskins.
And did the Chiefs come into play at some point for you?
Yeah, I moved out to Kansas City, right? So I kind of followed. I played along as the hometown kid.
You were in Kansas City, Kansas, but there's still Chiefs fans there, right?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, I lived
both Kansas Cities,
15 minutes away from Missouri. So it's the Kansas City metropolitan area, right? But the thing is, though, is for me as someone who grew up, in the Washington area and grew up as a Redskins fan, I wanted, and I always had this ringing in my ear that hail to the Redskins, and so it's like I play that in my mind. It's like hail to the Red Wolves, makes sense, hail to the Admirals, hail to the Defenders, it just didn't do it.
Red Commanders,
exactly. Red Wolves would have been perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Timberwolves said, "Oh, we've got naming rights to all that." God. I'm like, no chance. No. Red Wolves, that would never. I just don't think that would hold up in court. But of course, the Washington football team has been as cheap. And
here's the thing: the Arkansas State team is the Red Wolves because they used to be called the Indians. Then they changed their name to the Arkansas State Red Wolves. But the thing is like, do they have? It's Is it their name? I mean, what about the Bulldogs and the Tigers? Like all of these other franchises that have
no way that would hold up in court.
Yeah, there's
but
like what
first thing Washington should do is fix their stadium because Jalen Hurts almost got broke.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He's not the only one. But anyway, enough about Washington. The Bucs aren't playing them in the first round of the playoffs. We know that for sure. Some people want to know about Desean Jackson. He's on the team too, isn't he? Where is he now?
He's no, he got killed. Yeah, he's on the Raiders. That's right.
The Raiders
by the Rams.
Oh, okay.
But the Raiders, he's on the Raiders.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not. Charlie would like to know about Arian's comments on JTS needing to step up. Did I miss this? Did he say something today about JTS needing to step up on Bucs Total Access? He talked about him.
Yeah, I think that's what he's referring to. Is like expand on that. Like, what does he mean?
Oh, okay. And I don't even think he used the words "needs to step up" unless I missed it, Charlie. Sorry if I did. I wrote the story today, so I hope I didn't. But I've written a lot of stories today. So,
I think what he's saying is this: is the PR staff expands.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Charlie, I didn't see your second. Yes, he needs to use more power. Okay, so. I should have pulled up some plays, but basically when you're a pass rusher, I think, and I talked about this a little bit in the Shaq Barrett all 22 I did, I think, if you go back and watch that one a little bit too. But when you're a pass rusher, like sometimes one of the best things you can do is close space between you and the other player, I think, because if you can close space, you can start to work more moves. But if you are not closing space, they're going to see stuff coming and they're just going to stay under control and wait for you to make your move first. You really want to get the opponent to make the first move. That's kind of like the goal as a pass rusher. And if you're never closing that space, they're not going to feel like they need to make the first move. So you're going to have them comfortable in their stance and just kind of waiting to mirror you. And when you're an athlete like JTS, you can't use your athleticism to its full advantage when you don't have when you have the other player is kind of comfortable in their stance because they're just waiting for you to dip or waiting for you to try and swim inside. And especially a tackle when they're usually a little bit better athletically. So I think Arians is right. I think it's a good point by Arians. He needs to use power first. Doesn't mean he has to be like a dynamic power rusher and push back the pocket every single time, but he needs to start there, I think. And then once he's established, I'm going to get into your frame. Then guys are going to start to expect it. They're going to start to lunge or punch a little bit early. Then he can knock their hands down and use his athleticism to get around. So it's just normal growth stuff. Nothing.
And the thing is,
no concern.
When I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago for my Fab Five, that's something that the light bulb at that time kind of came on. And I think that's a process that he's been going through really the second half of his rookie season is just remembering to do it, being comfortable doing it. And John, when I was the defensive line coach for Pop Warner, I started early with the kids. I said, listen, you have to get into them physically, right? You can't try to run around them. You have to get into them because there's only so much space and time to get to the quarterback when you're pass rushing. And you've got to be able to kind of round off your rush. If you loop around, try to do that too much, the more space you create between you and the offensive lineman, you're doing the offensive lineman's job for them.
Yeah.
Because that's their job is to keep you off, keep you away. And so if you don't engage, and at the NFL level, it's got to be power, right? It just does. This isn't college where you can kind of, dip and rip and run around guys all the time. These are grown men professionals that know how to counter that stuff and use your momentum against you and wheel you around the quarterback. So Arians is right. JTS gets it. John, you're exactly right. It just he's got to get into his rush a little bit sooner and be a little bit more physical when he does it with those initial moves.
Yeah.
So hopefully I think it's coming. I think this is a process, and honestly, the only way he's going to do it is to get the kind of reps he's had these last 2 weeks with JTS.
And he's gotten some pressure for sure. It's just we've seen it. Like you watched you were texting me, you were saying, he's getting in. Like he's getting in there. Like he's done plenty of good things, but he's right. This will unlock it for him, I think. And it's one of the things Shaq Barrett's probably best at is. Shaq Barrett's not going to like bully people all game long with bull rushes or anything, but just the fact that you're bringing power, they have to brace for it. They have to get their hands on you first. They have to punch. They can't just stand there and hand fight with you all day. They have to punch. They have to get into your frame because you've challenged them that way. And so now you've opened them up. Okay, now they're going to punch. They're going to punch. They know they're going to punch. Now what's your counters?
Just like I was telling my defensive line kids, it's like engage, then disengage, like that quickly. Engage and disengage. But you have to engage first. You've got to be the attacker.
Right. William Butler, $5 super chat. Greatly appreciate this. By the way, Charlie, let us know if that made any sense for you. Other than Philly, who do you guys prefer the Bucs to face in the first round?
Philly,
Anybody could beat the Bucs this
Philly,
year. And
Philly,
the Bucs can, they're still, Philly. I mean,
Philly.
Philly, yeah, for sure. I think he maybe is suggesting that here, but yeah,
I know.
Philly is definitely the team. I mean, again, you have to beat somebody tough anyway. If you could bounce
That's
the first,
right.
like whatever, you're gonna have to beat tough people. I said that last year too. But if you're looking for the easiest opponent, Philly, but even then, it's not going to be easy. I mean, Philly can rush with
Correct.
4. They play good defensively. You only have one true, big threat at wide receiver right now. No disrespect to Cyril emergence recently, but they have Slay who can match up with Evans for sure if they want to go that route. They play a ton of zone and they keep the ball in front of them. So you're going to have to be really patient. Brady's great at that, I think. So that's good for the Bucs. But yeah, rush from 4 and. I think that it's not gonna be easy for sure. Bucs defense has to play great. I mean, they were great against Philly. They gave up 95 yards on 2 different penalties, 50 and a 45-yard penalty, Scott, pass interference that put them in a first and goal. That was how the Eagles scored their first 2 touchdowns. Couldn't move the ball at all until that final drive in the fourth quarter, other than those 2 penalties. Remember, in this game, they did not have Carlton Davis. They did not have Sean Murphy-Bunting. They did not have Levante David, I don't believe either, right? He didn't play. He was hurt in the Dolphins game, so he didn't play in this game. So they didn't have a lot of people. They had they didn't have any of those guys playing in that game. So they didn't have Winfield either.
Well, actually, they had Vita Vea. I think he had half a sack in that game.
Correct. They did have Vita Vea. I was saying, they didn't have Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Antoine Winfield, or Levante David. So that's 3 of their best defensive players there. And depending on what Murphy-Bunting is, he could be at least an asset depending on the day. And so, that is and they still took that pass interference on Dean and the pass interference on Edwards for the Eagles to move the ball at all until that they got that drive when they got the touchdown, the 2-point conversion, because they ran it like a bunch of times. Miles Sanders had like 40 yards. They had a short field of a bad pinion punt, I think. No, off a failed 4th down it was by the Bucs. They had a short field and they scored a touchdown on a short field running the ball when it was running the ball almost exclusively. They didn't pass, I don't think, at all on the drive while the Bucs were in dime defense. And they got like a 27, 11 yarder or something off it, and that was the field. And then they scored in the red zone. So it was a very weird game. The Eagles' process in that game, no way if you run the simulation that it equals, again, 100 times, does it equal 22 points. Like it just that will just hardly ever happen. They just didn't have any
I remember that too, because they went for the 2-point conversion, and that caused me to lose my bookie bet, which really pissed me off. It did.
That did piss you off. I remember that. Yeah. And it was like, it ended up being meaningless anyway. And the Bucs, they had a failed 4th down in Eagles territory, and they had another at the end of the game. They had 1st and goal, and they just knelt the ball out. It could have put up more than 28 points for sure. If they played a little bit cleaner. They didn't have Gronk in that game. Obviously, they had Godwin and AB. So it's going to look different. The Eagles are definitely playing better than at that point in the year right now.
No doubt. Well, and the other thing too, John, is I kid when I say, I want Philly, and nobody else. You're right. Everybody's good in the playoffs. And listen, we were not afraid of the Washington football team, right? When the Bucs went on the road and into the first wildcard game. And the reality of it is, if you go back and look just at the scoreboard, that was the closest of the 4 postseason games. Right. I mean,
probably. I mean, the Packers won certainly.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it's like that was that came down to a Levante David sack, right? Washington had the ball last. And so that was a much closer game than anybody thought. And so I think that you got to kind of keep that in mind a little bit when looking at these playoff games, because it can be, it can be any. Listen, in 2007, the last Bucs home playoff game, is as weird as it sounds. Ernest Graham scores a touchdown against the Giants, and that was it.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah, I still don't count that, because that was the Super Bowl. That was,
they don't technically count it as a home. Like if you,
I know, I don't
think if you look at statistics, it counts as a home.
It does not count as a home playoff game. Correct. That's what I'm saying. I was there for that Giants game, and that was Jason Pierre-Paul was in that team. That was the team that ended up beating Tom Brady in the playoffs and ending the Patriots' perfect season. But the Giants came in here and just whipped the Bucs, right? And a lot of people thought the Buccaneers, even though they had a little bit of, I think they were 9-7, and I think the Giants were 10-6. and it didn't matter. Giants won.
It didn't.
Big time.
Right. So I would say Philly, by the way, just to answer that part, if it's somebody else, I think the only other team that they can face is San Francisco.
Right. 49ers. Yeah.
There might be some weird path where they face the Cardinals, like a very small percentage chance. And I would just rather face a team
quarterback
that is the Eagles with a new coach, basically a new quarterback and a new defensive coordinator. All like in that stage, I'd rather face that in a team that I know Tom Brady knows how to beat the Eagles. Just a matter of being patient and whether the personnel can step up around him. I don't think they're a hard team to quarterback against necessarily if you're patient. So I'd rather face the Eagles than any team that has Nick Bosa, that has Fred Warner, that has Deebo Samuel, that has George Kittle. I don't care. I know people talk about the quarterback. They have Kyle Shanahan, they have George Kittle, they have Deebo Samuel, they have Nick Bosa. I mean, those are legitimately the best, like among the best players in the league at their positions.
Yeah.
You don't want to face that in the first round if you can avoid it. The Eagles are a solid team, but they don't have any. There's no player on their team, individual that's like, I'm like, wow.
There's a lot of 49ers players that were still on the team in 2019 when they came down here and just waxed the Buccaneers. I mean, Richard Sherman was on that team. He's now a Buccaneer, but I mean, they picked off Jameis Winston, had 2 pick sixes that game, and that was the catalyst. I mean, nobody picked the 49ers to win that game. I mean, people picked the Buccaneers to win. 49ers went on to go 12-4 that year.
Yeah. Bucs should beat both of them, but I'm just saying, I'm just saying they're both good, and anything can happen in the playoffs for sure. And we still don't know what the Bucs are going to look like against a good team. We're not going to know until the playoffs without Godwin and AB. So we'll just have to wait and see.
What do you think about Eric's post, John?
Eric, we appreciate the super chat here. Give T.O. a tryout. Can't be any slower than Lev Bell. I actually agree with that. The second part, probably not slower than Bell. Lastly, I hope the national media picks up Steve P's MVP case for Brady. It's a good read. Yeah, I read it today. I shared a couple of his tweets. I'm going to finish reading the article. Let's talk about the MVP case here, Scott, now that Eric's brought it up here. I hate MVP discussions, but I know that we need to do it because this is part of our job on the show.
Right.
I said this today on the radio on WDAE. I think both are deserving of MVP probably. So whenever we do this, we have to start from that standpoint where like we are almost never arguing from two players who one deserves it and the other one doesn't deserve it. It's who's most deserving. And that is a different conversation than one guy not deserving it and one guy, both deserve it. And we have to start from that point if we're going to have any credibility, I think, because both have played unbelievable this season.
Yeah.
And so,
and the thing is as Mitch says, Brady leads in 4 categories. He leads in a lot of categories. But the thing is which category is the most important? Is it wins? Okay. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has one more win than Tom Brady does this year, right? But has Brady been more of a factor in those wins? Statistically, I mean, he's got 5 more touchdowns. I think he's got 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns this year. Not sure if Aaron Rodgers has any. I think he's got 1.
Yeah. I mean, obviously what we say is going to be perceived as biased. That's why on Twitter, I don't even bother because I have followers from every fan base. There's no point in anything I say is going to be seen as biased. So there's not much point in arguing for it. But I honestly, genuinely, I think everybody on this show, at least that watches, knows that I give my honest opinion. When I say I don't believe Devin White deserves to be in the Pro Bowl, it's because I've watched every snap and I don't believe that he does. And when I say Donovan Smith's had an awesome year, but there's no way he's better than Tyron Smith or Trent Williams and Wirfs.
I'm just glad that you whittled it down to 2. I mean, that I was able to talk you to Ben Roethlisberger. And, I mean, I'm just saying, it's like, I thought with your Steelers roots that was a little extreme, John. But then I finally got through to you, and
this
said,
about
listen,
to play his last game, Scott.
It's down to A-Rod and TB12, and you're like, okay, you know what, Scott, you're right. I'll let this
poor man die in peace.
Set out this year, okay.
No, he'll definitely sit out this year of the playoffs and soon out of the league. But respect for a long, great career. But
of course,
I think Brady deserves it, Scott, for a couple key reasons. I know both offenses very, very well.
Yep.
There is just no comparison in terms of which one requires more difficult quarterbacking. Yeah. It's clearly Bruce Arians' offense.
Right.
And I mean, Rodgers wouldn't tell you that because he's well, he's probably a narcissist, but
Probably.
I think probably, but I think that
And I say
deep
it
down,
respectfully, I really like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I'm
yes,
Aaron Rodgers
I don't
fan,
have
but
any
I agree
issue.
with you.
Yeah. I think that the big thing is with him is that he really genuinely believes in himself and like his. I think he genuinely believes he's the MVP, and I'm sure Brady does too. Although he is probably less likely to talk about it than
Yeah.
Rodgers does. I think that that's one of the biggest differences is that Rodgers, his offense. I mean, he might have the best head coach in the league in terms of offensive play calling and design on his staff. I mean, that guy's done it with, just whoever at wide receiver and Devontae Adams, and nobody can stop Devontae Adams because he moves him around all over the place all the time. He moves him around. He gets in the ball manufactured, and Adams is a great talent, obviously, but just the complexity, the way that he orchestrates that offense for Rodgers is great. And also they run the ball a ton and they run it very well. And that's all, well and good that they do. They have lost some offensive lineman injury, which some people will point to, but here's my thing with that, Scott. It doesn't matter if the guys behind them are playing awesome football, and they genuinely are playing awesome football. So we could say, oh, Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins were out most of the season. Well, I get it, but the guys behind them were freaking awesome. It's not like Rodgers was under duress all the time. The guys behind him played great. So that's what I mean when I say coaching and the players they've got in place around him and the scheme around him. Rodgers was really struggling in his career. He looked like he was fine, but he looked like he wasn't ever going to be the great Aaron Rodgers again until LaFleur came along. The difference has been obvious in raw numbers and tape and analytics, all of it. And Brady has just gone to one system to another. I mean, how many systems they ran in New England to Arian system and played at a Pro Bowl level last year and played an MVP level this year and put up the same numbers basically across both years. And,
but
it's just seamless how well he's played in an offense that's so difficult for quarterbacks.
No, you're right. And the thing is, and I'm going to pull this up in a second here, but Tom Brady averaged 24 touchdowns per year in New England, and his 50 touchdown season, which was 2007, is the most he's ever thrown in one season by far. The second most is the 40 that he threw last year and the 40 that is up to right now. I mean, his second and third highest touchdowns seasons of his career have been these last two in Tampa. And so you can say and be spot on that despite the Super Bowls he won in New England, he has elevated his game in Tampa. He really has raised his game in Tampa. And I'm not just saying
this in terms of the volume, especially in terms of the volume, right? In New England, he didn't have to be great every single week, correct. That's just not how their offense, and plus with their defense and everything that they have going on and the talent they had for years there. He didn't always throughout his entire career have to be the guy every game. But for the Bucs, just in terms of the way they run, not because the rest of their team sucks, although at times this year that's definitely the guys around him have definitely let him down. But I think just because of the system, Arian's system, it's just the quarterback has to be great. Arians has always had a great quarterback for a reason.
That's how it is. So Brady has to be great every week for them to really win because that's how it is. In New England, Belichick knew that, hey, we're going to have 50 mile per hour games where we're going to run the ball 50 times and we're going to throw it 3 times, right? I mean, that happened with Mac Jones, but there were similar really, really bad weather games up there, whether it be against the Jets, whether it be against Buffalo, up there in New England, whatever, right? Just because of the conditions, they had to run the ball. They had to rely on that. And it could be run the ball 50 times one week and then ask Brady to throw the ball 50 times the next week. But it was an offense that was designed around looking at a team's weaknesses and then attacking that rather than and also dealing with the elements rather than Arians' offense, which doesn't really do that. You don't sit there and say, okay, the Buffalo Bills are coming to town and the Bucs are going to run the ball 40 times and they're going to commit to it. That's just not what they do. They might run the ball a little bit more to probe those Bills, defenders.
Sure.
And they had success doing it. And even though Leonard Fournette had a good game, they're always going to let it rip. You're right.
There's never going to be a game where they're not going to let it rip. And that's how they play. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying I think that it requires a lot of the quarterback. If you don't have a great quarterback in Arians' offense, you'll be a bad football team. And he's always had a great quarterback. Right.
You got to hang in the pocket
because of that.
Hang in the pocket and throw it deep too. And you're going to be asked to do that.
Yeah. As soon as Carson Palmer wasn't good.
That's right.
As soon as he fell apart, and like he had those 2 great years at the beginning, and then as soon as his health shut down, they were a horrible football team again. Like
that's right.
That's what you have. They have to have that, otherwise that offense isn't going to work. So I just think it's when you look at it that way. Now this isn't going to be how any voters look at it. In fact, I'm not even sure what voters are going to look at because Brady's stats are better. The Packers are 1 win better, but it's not like that's. I know. It's not like that's a lot. Like they're right there, especially if the Bucs.
I know how Hub Arkush is going to vote. Okay, so there's 1 down right there. So Brady's already got 1 guy, right?
No, he doesn't. Scott, did you hear what Hub said?
No,
the full
what
quote.
did he say?
He said
which Chicago Bear is he going to give it to?
Right, no Chicago Bear. Shockingly, although maybe one of these guys is a native of the area. His exact comments were, he said he made up his mind in the summer because Aaron Rodgers held the Packers hostage in the summer with his situation of not being available and everything like that through camp and all. So he said he made up his mind in the summer that he couldn't win at which is unbelievable. But then he said, I don't think in a close race that he has been more valuable anyway than Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp and maybe even Brady. He said, maybe even Brady. He put Cooper Kupp. Unbelievable, dude. I was like, this guy could get. I literally turned it off then. I didn't hear anything else that he said. I've seen it written. I was just like, this guy can go to lunch, but that's who's voting for MVPs. So there's 50 of those. And I'm not saying everybody's like, but there's enough like him that it's, so don't be surprised. This is what you get in terms of results because of the way the league does things. So it sucks, but that's what it is. These guys they have no clue what they're looking at. So
exactly.
That's going to make it really hard.
We've had some super chats tonight, and that's awesome. And we have another one right here, and we appreciate everybody giving us the super chat dough. I'm going to tell you what to do with that dough in a minute. Yeah. 2022 free agent must keeps. The 2 that just pop out in my mind, John, you and I've talked about it earlier today on the phone. The easy slam dunks are Chris Godwin and Carlton Davis. Davis probably gets the franchise tag. CG probably comes back on a long-term deal. I don't think the Bucs want to let him go. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. To me, those are the 2 guys that are just the absolute must keeps. And I think those are the guys that will be back as well. So they're the must keeps and also the will be backs. So aside from those 2 guys, any other must keeps on this Buccaneer team?
I think there might be. I want to touch on those 2 guys really quick and just address some of those thoughts. But first, I got to let people know that there's an opportunity out here, Scott, to get yourself some money too. And it's not just the free agents, but you can get yourself some money. And it's at Underdog Fantasy right now. If you use the promo code Pewter, PEWTER, you can double your first deposit right now. So that's up to $100. So if you deposit money, they will double whatever you put in over at Underdog Fantasy. There are so many different things you can bet on. You can go do their tournaments. You can do their, they have like best ball leagues you can get signed up with, even ones for next year. If you're into other sports with football winding down, there's tons of other sports options that you can get involved with too. There's going to be bets you can place on the national championship in terms of over-unders, player prop bets, player stat lines that you can bet for that. Also, there are those going to be those for playoff games as well, and for this Sunday's game as well, and for NBA games if you're into those like I am. So there's just so much to do over at Underdog Fantasy, and the best part is that the layout is unbelievable. I mean, the interface, the app that they have, it's incredible. It's so easy to use and easy to understand.
It is.
And I'm talking about this as somebody who's like not a very experienced person with this stuff at all. It was so clear to me how to use it, and I love that about it. So make sure you download the Underdog Fantasy app. Use that promo code Pewter, PEWTER. They'll double your first deposit if your first time sign up. I highly encourage you to do this. I think this app is so much fun. I never thought that I would be into any of this stuff. Like I've told you for years, since I started Pewter Report, I was like, I'm probably not going to do this. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. I've loved doing it with Underdog Fantasy. So I just encourage you to make sure you check that out. Let me get back to that question because it is a good question about the 2022 free agents. Just quickly to Godwin. I have talked to some people who are in the know, very in the know about free agency, player contract situations in the league right now that are going to be free agents, especially the big name players, and what wide receiver markets look like in general right now. And they just feel very strongly that wide receivers are going to start getting advice from their agents to take money on the table from other teams. A, because the market's dried up this past year. B, because teams are looking around the league and seeing that the last 3 or 4 crops of free agent wide receivers have just not worked out. Wide receivers that have switched teams, it's gone really poorly. Even guys that they thought would be really good, like Kenny Golladay and some others, has just not worked out at all. And so teams are starting to be very cautious about that. And they're starting to be very cautious about how much they invest in there. Plus, every year in the draft, it's just loaded with wideouts. And teams are watching players like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase just go off over and over every week. Or every year, it feels like a rookie wide receiver is immediately one of the best in the league. AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, like Terry McLaurin. And so teams are starting to say, wow, these guys are way more pro ready than they used to be. I'm just going to save a ton of money and draft one because I'm going to get the same impact right away. And so,
John, there's probably going to be as many as 7 first-round wide receivers this year, depending on who all comes out. There's a pair of guys at Alabama, Jamison Williams and John Mechie. I know Mechie just had the knee injury, but those things are like 6-month injuries at this point in time. Might keep him out of the first round, but there's a pair of Ohio State guys, right? Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. You got the Penn State kid, Jahan Dotson, Drake London from USC, Treylon Burks from Arkansas, and we'll see how David Bell times. He might sneak up into the first round, the Purdue kid. I mean, there's just a plethora of wide receivers, John. It makes sense to get one of those guys on a rookie contract and cross your fingers and hope you have a guy like Jamar Chase.
It does. And I don't think, for the record, I know that people are saying 7 now. You know, numbers always fluctuate. I think they'll probably be.
It might be 5.
It might be 4. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But either way, it's a lot. You're right. And you're finding these guys in later rounds too. I mean, Debo was a later round, but AJ Brown, DK Metcalf,
Chris Godwin was
all those guys. Chris Godwin was a third. You know, there's just so many examples, Scott, and teams are just saying we can do this thing without spending all this money, and because there's so many good ones out there. It's not because the position isn't valuable. It is. So it's one of those. You
know what's really changed, John, from my era when the NFL and even college football. I mean, I grew up in Big 12 country. Actually, it was Big 8 country back then. The teams were running the wishbone, the option, right? Yeah. Tommy Frazier in Nebraska. You have Big Red. You have Oklahoma. Colorado with Eric Bieniemy was the running back in Colorado back in the day. Cordell Stewart was his quarterback. He was a running quarterback. What's changed now is the volume of targets these wide receivers are getting, right? I mean, you almost had a 2,000-yard receiver, the Western Kentucky kid this year, 1,900 yards. The volume of targets they're getting, the production that you're getting. I just looked at the ESPN list of the college receivers that have 1,000 yards. It kept going and going and going and going and going. It's ridiculous. And the more catches you get, the more touchdowns you score, the more opportunities you are to read defenses and make plays. You are getting more prepared to enter the league, as opposed to back in the day when there were first round wide receivers. That had 40 catches for 750 yards and 5 touchdowns, and the guy was a first round wide receiver. Back 10, 15, 20 years ago. And
so all that's going to create. They're going to create a market for Godwin. It's just not. I don't think it's going to be, especially coming off injury. I don't think it's going to be overwhelming. And so I think the Bucs are going to give him money to stay. I think he's going to take it. I think he's going to stay. He absolutely loves it in Tampa. That's not just me guessing. That's me saying I know he loves it in Tampa. And so I think he's going to stay. He wants to stay.
Bruce Arians loves him. Those are two good people to love you. Chris Godwin, he loves them. He loves Tom Brady.
The system works for him.
Where are you going to go, John? If you're Chris Godwin, where are you going to go and have a better quarterback and be a better fit with the team and play with weapons like Mike Evans and probably Rob Gronkowski for another year? Where are you going to go and have that level of success?
Yeah, you're probably not. I mean, you're not. There's places, but it's probably not going to happen. I think he's going to be back, and I think Carlton Davis will be back at least on the tag. So yeah, those are two. I don't know if I would say anybody else is a must, but I think Ryan Jensen's important.
Never draft a receiver. Are you a fan of the Buccaneers, Hopster? And I'm just saying that with all respect, because I've never seen you in here before. Forgive me if that's the case, okay? But Chris Godwin was drafted by the Bucs, so was Mike Evans.
Yeah,
by Jason Light.
Every good team in the league. Devontae Adams drafted by the Packers. Cooper Kupp drafted by the Rams. Yeah. You could do that.
Justin Jefferson drafted by the Vikings. Jamar Chase drafted by the Bengals.
Yeah. So definitely draft receivers. It's one of the most important positions to prioritize on your team, just in general, I think. But I think that Jensen should be back. I think I would like to see them emphasize bringing him back. And then I think Jordan Whitehead's another one they've got to think about, just because their safety play could be really good the way he and Winfield's careers are kind of trending right now.
You know who I want to see back?
Healthy.
I want to see this guy
Gronk
right here.
I should say.
Yeah.
I should say Gronk too, obviously. That's obvious.
Yeah.
But I don't think Gronk's going anywhere. He either retires or comes back, I think. So
Will Golston. I want to see Will Golston come back.
I feel like he's almost like Gronk, right, Scott? Like, why would Will Golston go anywhere else at this point? He's not expensive. They clearly need him. If Sue retires, even if he doesn't, they need Golston. Like, I think he'll be back.
He's not going to break the bank. He's been playing for about an average of $5 million the last 5 years.
Never misses a game.
Yeah, you're 30 years old. We're going to give you another $5 million. Let's do it one more time. He'll come back. I mean, he just, from his ability to rush the passer, especially against Carolina, he's never going to be more than a 4 sack guy, right? I shouldn't say that. Watch him have another sack or two. He'll be a 6 sack guy. Good for you, Will. But that's not what his role is here, although he really has made strides. He really has, and Bruce Arians can give him credit for that, and I agree with that. But we're going to stick a little bit of a Panthers preview in here, even though John's right.
We haven't talked about the Panthers at all yet. Yeah. We just played them. The Bucs just played them, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. But we will talk about it. Let's talk about it.
There's one thing I want to share real quick. They gave up 7 sacks again last week, John. They gave up 7 sacks again. What's Sam Darnold doing? He's getting killed.
Out here giving up 7 sacks back-to-back weeks.
It's nuts. It's just nuts.
That's absolutely horrendous. So I'm sure they're, without even looking, because I honestly didn't look before the show, but I'm sure they're bottom of the league in that regard. And so
they've given up 50 sacks now. They had 43 after the Bucs destroyed them for 7. They gave up another 7. Cameron Jordan had 3.5 last week.
The last 2 games. Bucs should get at least 4 more.
Long lost 7, John. They should get 7 more.
I mean, I'm all about it.
They got to play to the
if they give up 7 with facing a team without their top 2 edge rushers, just fire them into the sun. That's absurd.
Exactly.
Long Lost Glazer says, anybody busted John's balls? Shout out Manscaped for his math mistake in Bucs briefing. Yeah, what the heck? This article went up and it was 0.0009% needs to clean it up. Otherwise, fantastic article. This is actually funny. It's because it's 100% true. Trevor sent me this info. I say that in the article. Trevor sent me this information. I just copy paste what he said and put it in the article.
I don't do math. I've already graduated from Kansas State. I don't do math. It takes me
anymore. Like 10 hours to write Bucs briefing, man. You think I'm checking the math problem?
Yeah.
So talk to Trevor. No, I should have checked it. Yeah. I realized, honestly, when he sent it to me, I had the question, but I was at the time writing, and so I didn't think that much. I was like, wait, that's not right. And then I just copied and pasted it in later and totally forgot to double check it. But yeah, that's funny. Still one of the most absurd coaching decisions. Not just the decision, the explanation on the 2-point conversion has absolutely boggled my mind. That is unfathomable explanation.
See, the
fact that he would even think of that, Scott, is amazing.
The funny thing is when he said that, like, my initial thought was, but you kicked off to them. What about the kickoff return for a touchdown possibility? You didn't think about that? Braxton Berrios just had a kickoff return for a touchdown the previous week.
Yeah. And didn't he say in the Colts game they were never kicking off again? They were always going to squib it. He said that was 20 seconds Fournette scored with, and then they kicked it off to the Colts. And if the Colts had just needed a field goal, they would have won that game. The Colts would have kicked the field goal, and if it was the same situation. If he fails the 2-point conversion, then he kicked off.
You know what else Bruce Arians has said, John? I'll tell you what Bruce Arians has said. Nobody runs on this team. I don't care who the hell you are.
So maybe with their starters out there, but no.
My game ball presented by Manscaped goes to Long Lost Glazer for pointing out John's math error.
Thank you, Long Lost Glazer.
Game balls.
Thank you.
Balls. Well, thank you. Presented by Manscaped.
And also thank you for reading. I know you're a faithful reader, so I appreciate that a lot. Okay, let's talk about the Panthers.
Hold on. We can't do that just quite yet. Okay, fine. We can. Right. We can talk about what you need to do for the Bucs Panthers game, John, which is go to MyBookie, right, and double your first deposit. That's what you need to do. Looking for an easy New Year's resolution? Make your goal to double your money and get a head start with MyBookie's deposit matchup bonus. It's all you got to do. Go to MyBookie, use the promo code PEWTER, and you sign up. You get your initial deposit doubled up to $1,000. With the extra dough in your account, you're ready to bet on the biggest games of the week, and MyBookie has all the best action. The NFL playoff race is in the final stretch. There's plenty of high-stakes games to choose from. To get you started, look no further than the Bills-Jets matchup this weekend. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. And with the favorable matchup against the Jets, that's what the Bucs thought, back them to cover the spread and you win some bread. Get in on this week's NFL slate and more at mybookie.ag. Don't drop the ball. Double your first deposit up to $1,000 using the promo code PEWTER. Head to MyBookie, place your bets, and ring in the new year with the win. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. So there's your Bucs Panthers preview right there. Go to MyBookie.
That's your Bucs Panthers preview.
Bet on the Bucs.
Here's the other part of the Bucs Panthers preview. The Panthers are down their top 6 wide receivers, or 6 cornerbacks now. Yeah. If indeed Stephon Gilmore does not play, which it sounded like today that they were pretty doubtful that he was going to play. He did not practice today. By the way, we'll get to the injury report.
Yeah, he got hurt at the end of the Bucs game. That's when he got hurt.
Yes, correct. And really, what point is there to playing him? I mean, at this point, you want a high draft seed. If he's not 100%, it doesn't make any sense to play people who aren't 100%. CJ Henderson was a limited participant. I'm sorry. I thought he did not participate. He was limited today in practice. Yeah. So it could be CJ Henderson and Rashawn Melvin, who did not play in the last game because he was on the COVID list. Their top 4 corners that they came into the year with are all on injured reserve. And JC Horn's on the COVID list. So they're already gone with those guys. And then Gilmore's probably not going to play either. So, yeah, you're looking at an atrocious secondary without a lot to play for, without nothing to play for except pride at this point. And obviously their defensive line still good. Yatur Gross-Matos today did not practice with an illness. So we'll see what his situation is, and we'll see what the rest of those guys, Brian Burns, Hassan Reddick. But bottom line is, I mean, you guys know all the stats because we went over them last time. Nothing's really changed except the Panthers numbers have gotten worse. They're pretty much at this point, they might be analytically probably the worst football team over the last several games or so, I would say, in the league probably right now. And with how little they have to play for in the internal unrest, how bad they are on the interior defensive line and on the offensive line and at cornerback. I mean, those are probably 3 of your more important positional units. So it's hard to envision a path, but it was with the Jets too, Scott. So, I mean, the Bucs just have to decide what kind of team they're going to be, and especially defensively. Yeah, they were just so embarrassing to start that last game. That can't continue.
I agree. I think what happens is the Bucs always play better at home, right? They're with the exception of that upset to the Saints, they're undefeated at home. They're going to finish with 1 loss at home, that being the Saints game. We saw this last year, right? When an Atlanta Falcons team came in here, their ship was sinking. They got waxed 44-27, and Brady threw for 399 yards, 4 touchdowns. Antonio Brown went off. That was the game. Mike Evans got hurt. AB is not going to go off this week. Don't get your hopes up. It's not going to happen. But my point is this Panthers team is coming in here wounded, beaten up. They're not going to want to be here. They're not going to want to play the Buccaneers, right? They don't have a chance to win. They know that. They want to go home. They want to get an early start on the off season. I know that because I've seen a lot of Buccaneer teams play bad. Bad Buccaneer teams play bad. That didn't show up for the season finale. Matter of fact, my first year on the job, Sam Weich's last season, that was the I want to say it was 37-10. The Detroit Lions came in. Matter of fact, that was Brashad Perriman's dad was on that team. Herman Moore and Perriman, and they just destroyed the Buccaneers. Buccaneers did not at all want to play
that's what this could be, right, Scott?
And that's what I think this is going to be. Yeah.
I mean, the Bucs are beat up. So, I mean, if it was a full healthy Bucs or even close to maybe, but it could be Keyshawn Vaughn and Le'Veon Bell in the backfield.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, we should note that. I mean, defensively, they're going to be probably without a few people. I mean, they're obviously
it might not be a blowout because of the lack of offensive firepower.
It'll be like 28-10 at best, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I still think, and maybe it's the third quarter, but I still think we see Blaine.
Could be Blaine. Yeah. What, 3 games this year? 3-0 or 4-0?
He's 5-0 this year.
5-0. He's been in 5 games this year.
5 games. Mm-hmm.
Holy moly! I did not realize that. And none of those were losses. All those were wins.
Undefeated.
All right,
Eric Lewis asked, "Thanks for the super chat. I think Brady plays next year, but if you had to put odds on it, I play the odds. I don't make the odds, if that makes sense. So
Brady's going to play next year.
He'll play next year. Yeah, I would say 100% probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably.
Somebody said, when will Levante David be back? We don't know, but it sounds like he's a chance for the wild card round. Definitely seems like the divisional round more likely than beyond that. Yeah. But I think he could be back for the wild card. They don't really know. I think at this point they're hopeful that the wild card.
With the guys that have been out for a while, right? And I don't mean like Keyshawn Vaughn or Mike Evans. The guys that like the Leonard Fournettes, the Levante Davids, the Shaq Barretts. Bruce Arians is not rushing him back to play this week. He's not. They're not going to play. Yeah. They're going to wait, and hopefully they'll be back for the first round of the playoffs. So, I don't have any like snazzy, quick-witted, because it's late, John. It's like 8:25. I'm exhausted. Stayed up last night watching Kansas State whip up on LSU. Did I say that earlier? I did say that, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I love Mark Cook. I miss the guy terribly. I've been thinking about him a lot during this playoff stretch, during the holidays, all that stuff. Mark Cook was the king of segues. I don't have a good segue, so I'm just going to hit the Immuni Financial button, John. We're going to watch the ad, then I'm going to talk about Immuni Financial. That's your segue.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you? Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it. All right.
Yeah. We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Immuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
John, we got to get to Colorado, man. We got to do it. Managing your family's wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings, and insurance services. With over 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Call Immuni Financial at 1-800-868-6864. That's 1-800-868-6864. Or visit Immuni.com. And listen, folks, you've heard me do the Immuni pitch. If you're a regular Pewter Reports podcast viewer, listener, we do it a couple times a week. If you haven't picked up the phone or gone to the website, Immuni.com, do so. Call those guys over there. Have them help you with your investments. Ring in the new year in a financially beneficial way. If you haven't put money away yet, if you need help with your retirement, that's what their specialty is. That they'll help you. I have the vast majority of my retirement assets with Immuni, and I'm thrilled with the results that they've given me. I highly recommend it. I'm not just advertising partners with them. I'm also a client. So I'm going to shoot you guys straight about that.
Yeah. Nate Pitt says, I don't get Scott's don't draft a running back take. I wish we would have gotten Jonathan Taylor. Well, first of all, you are team draft running backs. Don't sign running backs. And
Correct.
Nate, if they got Jonathan Taylor,
I would have been
they
happy.
would not have gotten Antoine Winfield Jr. So just like to point that out.
True.
Hobster still going strong. Greatest coach of all time avoids drafting receivers. He drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round. Maybe he avoids drafting good receivers.
Right.
Definitely drafts them. Eric, did we get this one?
Yes. Yeah, we got
I think
that one.
Brady plays next year, but he had to put odds on it. We got that one. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is the one that Eric wants me to, but Mark Cook is rolling in his grave over you missing that segue. That's true. Yeah. You misspelled segue. It happens. Just going to point it out.
A lot of people spell it that way.
So
it's
exactly.
not surprising. That is funny though.
But good point. Yes.
Okay, so we didn't really preview this game that much, but that's because we just did it a couple weeks ago and everybody heard that, I think, or most people. If you didn't, you can go back and listen to that one. But Panthers are very bad and their offensive line is terrible. And that's where this game should be won defensively, I think. And Darnold is, he's just struggling mightily, man. There's just not much. And Robbie Anderson might not play in this game either. Not that he's to be feared, but he might not play in this game. So I guess that means there won't be a wide receiver celebrating down 20 points late in the game on the Bucs sideline. No, I actually didn't care about that, to be honest. I think guys should have fun and enjoy. He ran a great route. He said that too. I love these quote tweet. Somebody was blasting him on Twitter for it, and he was like, "It was an awesome route, dude. Like, I got open and caught the ball." And I thought it was I just thought he cracked me up when he said that. He's a funny dude, man. I think you're muted. I'm trying to unmute you. I think you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, I am, because I didn't want to be accused of typing. I looked it up just so I wouldn't embarrass myself. I was pretty sure it was segue is SEGUE, and it is. So we all learn. It's okay. I can be a bit of a prick that way. I'm sorry. I don't mean to come across that way, but it's like my mom was a notoriously bad speller. She used to write me handwritten letters my freshman year at Kansas State. She would like mail me a letter each week with cash. Appreciated that, Mom. But I would whip out a red pen and like highlight all her corrections. And then when I'd go back to see her a couple weeks to do my laundry and, get some more cash and get a home cooked meal, I would present her with their misspelled letters to me.
That's funny.
You know, because I want her to learn just to be a better
learn,
speller,
right?
so,
Right.
yeah.
Some people are asking if this is DJ Moore's last game in Carolina. Is he a free agent?
He could be. He could be.
Man, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that he was drafted.
Yeah.
Was he a second round pick?
He was a second or third. He was a day 2 pick.
Definitely
so either second or third.
He was a day 2 pick. Okay. He was definitely second round pick then. Okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe it has been 4 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I didn't even know.
Oh, here's a good one.
That's
Scott, who is your least favorite coach to ask questions to?
All right, let's end it on this one right here.
Okay. Lovie Smith. Easy choice. Lovie Smith.
Oh yeah. You've told me that a million times.
Yeah. Well, it was the same BS. Like, you know, we weren't Tennessee ready. No shit. Like, yeah, you get your butt kicked. I mean, I'm just saying, it's like, you know, he just didn't have a lot of substance, and nothing against Levy personally. He's a really nice guy. There just wasn't any substance there at all. I mean, at least Dirk would get flabbergasted sometimes, you know, Raheem, for all of his nonsense, was entertaining. Yeah. Shiano would give you really good like nonsense, like entertaining.
Arians is the best though, right? I mean, Arians is so good.
Oh yeah,
we get so much
salty
content from Arians. Like he's some of the salty, but the best thing, Arians doesn't say very many words, right? But he is very quotable, and he just tells us stuff straight up. He's just honest. Like, I mean, going from Tomlin to that is unbelievable. Like Tomlin never says anything, and so it's awesome. The long lost guy just says he was a first round pick, so there's no way he's a free. He hasn't been 5 years.
Okay, yeah.
So they've got his option. I'm sure he'll be back there. Yeah, he's
Scott is falling asleep.
I love him.
I am falling asleep. Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up. Tomorrow, this is exciting. I can't believe I didn't plug this earlier on the show. I'm glad everybody. I'm sure you.
Wait, who's the guest?
Tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, on the Pewter Report podcast is myself, Paul Atwell, and Mark Schofield.
Oh, the guy that I recommended the other day. You listened to me, John. Good. All right,
I did. I listened to you. Yes. And I asked Mark if he would come on the show. Mark and Paul and myself, we are having a show tomorrow night at 8:30, and we are talking about the Bucs offense. So if you want to know about the Bucs offense, if you have questions about how this team can utilize Mike Evans without Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown, how can he be versatile enough to replace some of what those guys do? If not, who are the receivers that can replace some of what those guys did? How does this Bucs offense function without Chris Godwin, without Antonio Brown, especially in terms of some of the things those guys did best, like getting the ball in their hands and making plays? Right. So those guys are going to come in. They already have their thoughts. They already have their knowledge. They're going to come in and give their input on that. We're also going to talk about Brady and how he adjusts and how the offense schematically can adjust without those guys. And we're going to talk about the role Gronkowski plays in all this, because I think he's huge, and the other tight ends too, but especially Gronkowski. I think we're going to land on the point that if they keep Mike Evans and things that he traditionally does, then he's going to get doubled a lot probably. And so Gronk is going to have to be like the number one guy stepping up in the context of all that. And especially as they probably move him around more and more. So
I agree.
We're going to talk about all that on the show tomorrow. And
real quick,
it's going to be awesome.
Mike Tomlin is funny. I actually knew Mike because he coached here in Tampa. He was the defensive backs coach under Dungy for 1 year, and then Gruden. They won a Super Bowl together here. I know Mike T quite well. I actually can do a killer Mike Tomlin impersonation, and I'll do that on Monday. So be here Monday, because Monday we have 3 things. We have Victory Monday. Yeah, we're saying it. By the way, our prediction, Bucs are going to win by a lot. Not sure how much, but by a lot. Read our pewter preview and predictions. Easy for me to say on Friday.
You need to go to bed, dude.
I'm tired, dude. Yeah. You know, these winning Wildcats right here kept me up.
Mike Tomlin is funny. And tomorrow night you can watch Paul and Mark and myself break all this down if you're interested in the Bucs offense and what it's going to look like moving forward into the playoffs.
Be at pewterreport.com.
Pewter Report YouTube.
Well, yeah, I'm saying pewterreport.com for our content. Pewter Report TV on YouTube for the podcast tomorrow. On Monday, Victory Monday, we're going to do roll call at about 4:15, 4:20, and my Mike Tomlin impersonation. Don't miss it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about your hockey schedule, Charlie. I do feel bad about messing with your hockey schedule. But is it during the Lightning game? I'm not sure, but you can have us on during the Lightning game. There's 82 of those things for hockey, I think. If they do an 82 this year. So
I hope so.
You can have the hockey game on and have our sound on. I think it'll be okay. But we have to do them at night. I'm running the show solo here. I'm doing content. And my wife's in Pennsylvania right now, so I've got the 2 kids. I'm running to school. Yep. I'm making meals.
She's coming back though. She didn't leave
the
John.
content. Yeah,
she's coming back.
I have to wait till they go to bed to do the pod. So that's why we're doing nighttime editions, primetime editions, as Long Lost Glazer says. So we're excited for those tomorrow night to have Mark and Paul and get together and talk about some of that stuff. If you're interested, have questions about that, so make sure you tune into that show. Until then, thank you all. Appreciate y'all. Hit the like button on the video before you head out. Subscribe to the Pewter Report TV YouTube channel as well. And we'll see you on Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.